Before going to the supermarket, you get organized. You look at what's missing, think about the week's meals, write down only what's necessary, and even set a maximum amount you can spend. There's a clear intention there to do the best you can with your money. There are no excesses, no impulse purchases, no luxury, just responsibility. You leave home with the feeling that you're in control. The list represents planning. The budget represents a limit. And in your head, if you follow exactly what you wrote, everything will work out. But when you start putting products in the cart, something starts to bother you. The prices seem different from what you remembered. What fit comfortably within your budget last month now requires mental calculations in every aisle. You find yourself comparing labels, switching brands, returning an item here and there, trying to make the amount work out like it used to work out almost effortlessly. What's most confusing is that you're not buying more things. You haven't changed your consumption pattern. You didn't suddenly decide to live better. On the contrary, you're being even more careful than before. Even so, the running total in the cart is already starting to dangerously approach the limit you set at home. This is the part that weighs heavy. The feeling that your effort increased, but the result decreased. Prices didn't rise dramatically in a single day that would catch your attention. They've been advancing gradually, almost discreetly, spread out between 1 month and another. One product that increased a little, another that came with less quantity, another that changed brands and became more expensive. Nothing seemed absurd in isolation, but everything together completely changed the impact on your wallet. And then that silent question arises, which many people ask without saying out loud. If I'm getting organized, controlling myself and planning, why does it seem like the money stretches less and less? This doubt is the most important starting point of this conversation, because it shows that the problem isn't just in your individual behavior. There's a bigger scenario influencing every price tag you see on the shelf. Understanding this is the first step to stop blaming yourself and start truly adjusting your strategy. This is where we begin to realize that the shopping list by itself is no longer the protection tool it used to be. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about next. For a long time, the shopping list was seen as a symbol of financial organization. Whoever made a list was considered careful, disciplined, someone who knew exactly where the money was going. And in fact, for many years, this worked very well. You wrote down what you needed, went to the market, and with small variations, the final amount stayed within what was expected. But this balance started to break. Today, the list continues to be made the same way, with attention, with planning, with awareness, but the result at the checkout no longer matches the effort put on paper. Each month, you write practically the same items, in the same quantities, for the same routine. But the final total always seems higher than the previous one. Without realizing it, the list stops being a reliable plan and starts to transform into something else. A record of how much prices have changed since the last time you shopped. You arrive at the market believing you're carrying a control script, but in practice, you're carrying a memory of prices that no longer exist. The amount that was in your head stayed in the past, while the shelves are already living another reality. This creates a silent shock every time you scan a product at the price reader. It's not just the number that appears on the screen, it's the feeling that your reference became outdated. And this repeats item after item, aisle after aisle. The most dangerous thing is that faced with this, many people start to think the mistake is theirs. They think they're forgetting prices, that they're inattentive, that they've lost track of how much things cost. But the truth is that prices are changing faster than our memory can keep up with. The list, which used to be a forecasting tool, today often functions as a mirror of inflation. It shows what you needed to buy, but can no longer guarantee how much that will actually cost when you get to the checkout. And when planning stops providing security, frustration is born, not because you failed, but because the environment around you became more unstable than your control method. It's exactly this silent change that makes so many people leave the supermarket with the feeling that they did everything right and still lost. Many people imagine rising prices as a big event, something loud, sudden, almost like an explosion. But in real life, that's not how it works. What squeezes your budget isn't a single absurd increase. It's the sum of several small increases spread out over time. You almost never walk into the market and see everything costing double at once. What happens is more discreet, almost invisible at first. One product goes up a little this month, another increases a few weeks later, a third changes price without fanfare. Separately, each change seems too small to cause outrage. Together, they completely change the final value of your purchase. It's like a bucket filling with drops. No single drop is alarming, but when you notice, it's already overflowed. And in the middle of this, something even more subtle happens. Packages start to shrink. The package continues with the same appearance. The price often is similar to what you paid before, but the quantity inside is less. The product that used to come with 500 grams now has 430. The juice that was a liter now has 900 milliliters. The toilet paper has fewer meters per roll. This has a name. It's the silent size reduction, what many people call paying more for less without immediately realizing it. You think you're maintaining the same shopping pattern, but in practice, you're taking less product home. And because the items run out faster, replacement happens sooner than planned. What should last the whole month ends in 3 weeks, so you go back to the market and spend again. Notice how the impact is double? Prices rise gradually and quantities decrease discreetly. Money leaves faster and products last less. But none of this happens dramatically enough to become a personal headline in your life. It happens slowly, in detail, in routine. And that's why so many people feel they're always buying, always spending, always trying to balance, but the pantry never seems as full as before. The problem isn't just the value on the tag, it's how much that tag actually delivers. And when you start observing price without looking at quantity, your money starts to lose strength without making noise. In the next point, this will become even clearer, because it's not just that you pay more for less, it's that products are also lasting less time, pushing you toward increasingly frequent trips to the supermarket. Besides higher prices and smaller packages, there's another detail that weighs heavily on your budget. Products seem to last less time than they used to. Part of this happens precisely because of the reduction in quantities. What used to sustain the household for a whole month now runs out in 3 weeks. The detergent finishes earlier. The rice package doesn't yield like it used to. The coffee disappears faster from the jar. And when you notice, you need to go back to the market sooner than you had planned. But each extra trip to the supermarket brings a dangerous side effect: constant exposure to consumption. The more times you enter the market, the greater the chance of putting something in the cart that wasn't in your plans. Not because you're weak or uncontrolled, but because the environment is designed for this. Products at the end of the aisle, flashy promotions, new packages, buy 3, pay for 2. Everything there is designed to increase the final value of your purchase. So what started as just replacing what ran out turns into another complete purchase. And when you add up these extra visits throughout the month, you realize that the total expense is no longer concentrated in a single large purchase. It's spread across several small money outflows. And there's another point that many people still ignore. Today, more important than the product's price is the price per kilo or per liter. Two packages may seem similar, but one costs more per quantity, and you only notice this if you look at the smaller label, the one almost nobody pays attention to. When sizes change and prices rise at the same time, comparing only the final value on the shelf is no longer enough. You need to compare the actual yield of what you're taking home. Those who don't do this end up buying what seems cheaper, but in practice lasts less and needs to be replaced faster, generating a cycle of increasingly frequent purchases. Notice how the trap forms? You go to the market more often because products run out faster. And by going more often, you expose yourself more to impulse consumption. At the end of the month, the problem wasn't one purchase too big, but several small purchases that, added together, weigh much more than you imagine. Up to this point, it seems like the problem is only inside the supermarket. But the truth is that the prices you see on the shelves start to be defined long before the product gets there. There's a silent factor that influences all of this. High interest rates in the economy. When interest rates rise, money becomes more expensive for everyone. It's not just for those who take out personal loans or finance a car. Companies also depend on credit to operate. Supermarkets, transportation companies, food industries, rural producers all use credit lines to buy inventory, invest, keep operations running. With higher interest rates, the cost of this money increases. The supermarket pays more to finance merchandise. The supplier pays more to produce. The industry pays more to maintain machines, store products, and distribute throughout the country. And no company absorbs this cost alone for very long. This increase is passed along the chain, step by step, until it reaches the last link, you at the checkout. That's why, even when you reduce quantity, switch brands, and try to save as much as possible, prices continue to be pressured. It's not just a matter of supply and demand for a specific product. It's the general cost of doing business that's more expensive. And this appears on the label of everything, from bread to laundry detergent. What makes this even more frustrating is that this relationship isn't visible in daily life. You don't enter the market thinking about monetary policy or interest rates. You just want to buy food for the week. But without realizing it, you're also paying the price of an economic environment where money costs more to circulate. So, when you look at the cart and feel it's more expensive than it should be, you're not just seeing food and cleaning products. You're seeing the reflection of an entire system that became more expensive to operate. And understanding this changes something important inside you. It starts to become clear that not all the squeeze on your budget comes from personal error. Part of it comes from larger forces affecting millions of people at the same time. The products are all in the cart. You made switches, returned some items, chose cheaper brands, tried to maintain control. Even so, when the operator finishes scanning the purchases and says the final amount, that uncomfortable silence comes from within. You do the mental calculation right away. But I had planned less than this. I didn't even bring anything different. And almost automatically, a feeling of guilt is born. Your head starts looking for an error. I should have been firmer. I don't know how to economize properly. There's something wrong with me. But most of the time, the problem isn't lack of effort. It's that prices are rising at a much faster pace than salaries. While the cost of food, basic products and daily bills advances month after month, salary often remains almost in the same place, with small increases that don't keep up with the speed of expenses. In practice, this means that even working the same amount, or even more, money loses purchasing power. You continue dedicating yourself, waking up early, fulfilling your responsibilities. But when you get to the market, you realize that your effort buys less than it bought before. This is one of the most financially wearing sensations because it seems like you're walking, but the destination is always moving away. And then something dangerous happens. You start to transform a structural problem into a personal problem. Instead of realizing that there's an economic scenario pressuring prices and salaries at the same time, many people start to believe that the difficulty is a sign of individual failure, as if trying harder were enough to solve something that, in reality, involves the whole system around it. Understanding this isn't to remove your responsibility over money, it's to put the weight in the right place. Because only when you stop blaming yourself for everything can you clearly see what really needs to change in your strategy. And it's precisely this repetition of frustration, month after month, that starts to shape increasingly tight decisions, something we're going to deepen in the next section. And let me ask you very directly, because this conversation only makes sense if it's real for you too. Is this happening in your life? Do you go to the market with an amount in mind and, even trying to economize, the total always exceeds what you planned? Do you feel that your salary stays the same, but the cart seems smaller and smaller? If this feeling of trying harder and yielding less has crossed your mind, you're not alone. And that's exactly what we're talking about here. Tell me here in the comments, have you also been leaving the supermarket with this frustration, even making a list and trying to control yourself? After all this, the most important question is, so what can be done in practice? Because if prices rise, packages shrink and salary doesn't keep up, continuing to do everything the same way will only repeat the frustration. The solution doesn't start in the cart. It starts in the strategy. The first change is understanding that you can no longer shop on autopilot. Today, whoever shops always in the same place, in the same way and at the same frequency, ends up paying the price of convenience. A powerful alternative is to use cash and carry stores and higher volume stores for the items you consume most. Frequently used products, rice, beans, oil, toilet paper, cleaning products, usually come out cheaper when bought in larger quantities and in places where the business model is geared toward low price per volume. The second change is losing attachment to traditional brands. Store brands are often produced by the same industries as famous brands, but with different packaging and lower price. Testing these options can generate constant savings without changing your consumption routine. Another essential attitude is reducing the frequency of trips to the supermarket. The less you enter that environment, the less you expose yourself to impulse purchases. Instead of several small visits throughout the month, it's more efficient to plan larger, more spaced-out purchases, leaving only very specific replacements for emergencies. And perhaps the most important mindset change is this. You're not just buying products. You're protecting the power of your money. Each decision to switch brands, to compare price per kilo, to buy in larger volume, is a way to prevent inflation from eroding your budget without you noticing. This doesn't completely eliminate the impact of higher prices, but it greatly reduces their effect on your life. Instead of just being someone reacting to increases, you become someone who positions themselves better within the current scenario. And this change in posture makes all the difference, because it breaks the cycle of frustration and puts you back in control, not of everything, but of what's within your reach to adjust. After everything we've talked about, it might seem like the shopping list has lost its usefulness, but that's not it. The list continues to be important. What needs to change is the way you use it. Before, the list was a control instrument based on stability. You wrote down the items, went to the market, and prices didn't vary much from one month to another. The paper represented predictability. Today, the scenario is different. Prices change more frequently, promotions appear and disappear quickly, and costs vary from one place to another. That's why the list can no longer be a rigid document. It needs to be flexible and strategic. Instead of writing specific brands, you can write categories: rice, oil, teen, cleaning product. And this gives you freedom to choose the best price option at the moment, instead of being stuck with a name that might be more expensive that week. Another important change is observing the market before buying. Looking at flyers, comparing prices between stores, taking advantage of real promotions on items you already use. This is positioning. You don't buy just because it's on the list. You buy when the price makes sense. This also means not being predictable as a consumer. When you always buy the same products, in the same quantities, in the same place and on the same date, the market gains advantage. When you vary brands, take advantage of opportunities, and adjust the timing of the purchase, you recover part of the control. Financial intelligence in this scenario isn't just about earning more money. It's about knowing how to move within the price game. It's understanding that your role stopped being just that of a consumer and became that of someone who needs to make strategic decisions even in daily purchases. The list continues to exist, but now it's a flexible guide, not a fixed rule. It serves to orient your needs, but who decides the best time and the best way to buy is you, based on what's happening in the market. And it's precisely this capacity for adaptation that separates those who always live, pressured by prices, from those who manage to reduce their impact over time. If there's one message that needs to be clear after all this, it's the following. The scenario has changed, and continuing to act like before only increases the pressure on your money. It's no longer just about making a list, cutting out non-essentials, or trying to control yourself more. It's about understanding that you're living in an environment where prices move all the time, where money loses value faster, and where those who don't adjust their strategy end up falling behind without realizing it. Surviving financially today requires constant adaptation. It requires attention to prices per quantity, flexibility in brands, intelligence in choosing the places where you shop, and awareness that the problem isn't just individual, it's structural. And when you understand this, something changes inside. Excessive guilt leaves and strategy enters. The feeling of failure leaves and the posture of someone who's learning to play a new game with different rules enters. If this conversation made sense to you, if you recognized yourself in any of these situations, go ahead and like this video now. This helps this message reach more people who are also going through this silent squeeze at the supermarket. And share it with someone in your family or with a friend who keeps saying that money isn't stretching like before. Sometimes that person just needs to understand they're not alone, and that there are smarter ways to face this phase. We need to talk more about real money, real life and real solutions, because in the end, those who learn to adapt don't just survive difficult times, they build more security for the future.